All right, welcome everybody. In this video, I want to talk about the group by function from the dplyr package in R. So the group by function groups rows of a data frame with respect to one or more variables that we can then manipulate in various ways. So in the previous video, we actually were working with the arrange function to kind of sort and order rows of a data frame. And we saw that we can kind of do this within groups. And we actually did do a quick little introduction to, we did use the group by function in that process. We didn't really talk about what that was. So now we're going to talk about what that was. And so the group by function does not actually change the data itself. But when I run this, if I run this code cell here, again, I want to just hammer this point in that I really don't want my students to be submitting work that has output that looks like this. So this is like way too much output. Anything that has these dots in it, this is too much. I really can't make sense out of this. So I'm just going to clear this out. What I would prefer to do in those situations would be like print the concise printout of the data frame when it's got like more than 20 rows of data. So I'm going to run this code cell over here to get a more concise view of the data that's easier, more pleasant on the eyes to look at. And we can explain what this code cell is doing. So the first thing is here we're piping our commands here. So we're composing a couple of different commands. So first is we're going to use the storms data frame. We're going to go into, we're going to input into that group by. So up top here, I just want to illustrate like what the function would look like if we didn't use any piping. The very first input would be the data frame name. That's always the first input. And here, the second input in this case would be the variable name that we're grouping by. And again, the variable name, we don't put quotes around these things when we're working with the functions in dplyr. So that's how simple it would be if I wanted to do that. Just when I ran this code cell, the output was huge and ugly looking and not very pleasant for us to make sense of. So instead, piping just makes the code, I think, readable. Once you get comfortable with the pipe, it makes the code easier to read, I think. And this makes it easy for us to print concise, readable output as well. So this is going to take the storms data frame, input it into the group by function. So that just means it's going to take storms and input it first into the group by function. And we're going to group by month. And then we're going to take that output, what's going to come out of this function after that stage is a data frame. And now I'm going to input that data frame into the print function, which is going to print concise output to the screen. And I'm just going to tell it to print the first 20 rows to the screen. And that's what happened with this code cell over here. And what I can see from this output is that it created 10 groups for month. So yes, there are 12 months in a year. Just the data frame storms doesn't have storms recorded for every month. I don't think there are any storms that occurred in the data frame in February and March. I think it's missing. There weren't any tropical storms that occurred in the Atlantic in those 2 months. So that's why there's only 10 month groups because there were only 10 months in the data frame that have observations. So then it just groups things together by month, but it actually hasn't done anything to the data frame over here. So you can see We've got month 6, we've got month 7, but there are other observations in the data frame that occurred in month 6 and that occurred in month 7. So this is really just like restructuring the data frame in the background, but we really don't see that being displayed differently on the screen. But where I can see that structure has changed is with this part of the output over here. I can see that things have been grouped by month and there are 10 classes of month. So it's almost like month now has been converted to a factor variable within this data frame. Okay, so that is a quick rundown of the group by, and we can group by more than one variable if we wanted to. So I could group by month and status, for example, and that will create a separate group for each month and status. So you can see here, this created 75 groups since I have a separate group for tropical depressions in June, tropical depressions in July, tropical depressions in August. So this created a different factor variable for each different status in each different month. So this group by gives us the ability to create all sorts of different groups by not just month, but by pulling in multiple variables. So that's kind of the advantage there. But I'll change this back to month. And the other nice advantage is that it actually doesn't change the data itself. It doesn't change the storm's data itself. Okay, so we'll stop here. And in the next video, we'll talk about the summarize function.